What's going on, everybody? Welcome into an all-new episode of Pack-A-Day Live. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. You know who I am. You're all here to experience the wonders of what is Pack-A-Day Live. Thank you guys so much for being here. Excited to answer all of your questions. Per usual, Super Chats will go to the top of the list. We'll try to get to as many members' questions as I can after that. And then as I kind of go through, we'll try to get to just all the questions that are posted. You guys always come up with amazing stuff. Obviously, a ton going on, right? Packers Colts, really fun game. Malik Willis, a lot of discussion surrounding that. Some people not happy with the way Quay Walker's playing. Some Keisean Nixon discussion. Best defensive performance we've seen from Jeff Hafley. Obviously, it's only 2 games, but a big improvement in week 2 from what we saw in week 1. Then we've got, of course, a game coming up against Tennessee. Tennessee is favored. Is Jordan Love going to play? He practices on Wednesday. A bunch of players do not practice. So we have got a ton to get to. And I will, like I said, answer as many questions as I possibly can. Should be here for about a whole hour. So 7 to 8 o'clock Central Time here in the good old Green Bay area. Dalton, thank you so much for becoming a brand new YouTube member. Because you are a member, you are going to get access tomorrow to Aaron Nagler and I previewing Packers Titans. We recorded that earlier today. You will get access to the members Q&A tomorrow. So if you like doing this, you get another one extra for members only tomorrow. You get access to some additional Ross Uglum content. You get early access to all videos. So for example, Mike Wall and I recorded earlier today for tomorrow's video. That one is out there already for members. So you could check that out right now. So if you haven't checked out those memberships yet, it's worth your time and make sure to do so. Heartbroken Hog, Andy, I can't tell you how much I wish the NFL would just allow you to buy Sunday ticket for individual teams. I can't afford $500, but I would love to pay $70 like ESPN proposed for the Packers. Heartbroken Hog, what I would like to tell you is good luck with that. They just had the whole antitrust thing, and it's probably not going to change anything. I think it already got thrown out, right? I can't remember exactly. If it hasn't, it probably is going to. I think the NFL won the appeal, but I don't know. I haven't followed it closely enough. But listen, they're going to continue to make money off of all of us. It is what it is. And I do not see that individual team thing coming at all in any capacity. So I'm sorry to break that to you. Maybe at some point it'll get changed that way, but for the time being, I would expect it to remain Sunday ticket now on YouTube. And of course, you have to pay tooth and nail for it. And it is probably just like I said, it is what it is. Don't see it changing anytime soon. Being in Arkansas, I'm often cut out of the coverage on Fox. I'm sure there's ways. I'm not going to encourage those ways or say those ways. I'm sure there are ways you can probably figure that out. But I will leave you to those devices and depending on what you want to do. Okay, Ant, what do you think? What do you like best about watching the game from the press box? PS, stay hydrated. That's a great question. Obviously, being in Lambeau is special no matter what. And even in the press box, obviously, it's not the same as being out in the bowl itself. To me, I get the best of all worlds. And what I mean by that is usually 1 to 2 games a year, I'm going to go and be a fan in the stands. This year, I'm going with my friends for my usual game. And then I'm going to go with my son for 1 game as well. So I get to experience it as a fan in the bowl. And then the other home games, I get to be in the press box. And what's nice about that is obviously you're there for the game. And then you also get to go down below afterwards and do the press conferences and everything like that. And it just kind of gives you a different perspective on the game. And of course, that opportunity after. And then all the away games, it's really nice just kind of being at home, doing a pre and post game show before and after if need be, or depending on the time of the game, and watching it just on TV like you guys, seeing the TV angle of everything and then breaking it down and having that access right to everything here in my home. So it kind of is the best of all worlds. So I think there's advantages and disadvantages to everything. I'm not sure I would just want to watch it at home for every game. Certainly would not just want to be in the bowl for every game. Would not want to be in the press box for every game, but I think overall it provides a really nice variety. And I don't know, maybe it's just habit by now, but I really enjoy the process of each of them. And like I said, I think there's advantages and disadvantages to each. Not trying to do a knee-jerk reaction, but I don't think Quay has it to be a starting linebacker. He doesn't have the instincts that are needed. I think we've seen, a lot of Quay over the last 2 years, plus the first 2 games this year, to say it's not progressing in the right way. All right. I think we're saying, I think if we had to bet, I think if anyone was making a wise investment here and saying, do you think Quay is going to become a really good linebacker, or is this probably who he is? I think the smart money would be on probably this is who he is. What I will say is we were all excited of how some of these new players would fit in this new defense. the defensive ends, the defensive tackles. Quay Walker was certainly one of those players at linebacker. The corners being able to play man press coverage a little bit more. Xavier McKinney fitting like a glove in this defense. Some of those things like McKinney have already come to fruition. I think we've seen some of the corners do well on the outsides, but we are 2 weeks in to Jeff Hafley's defense, number one. And number two, not that it's just early, but you're also going against two very unique offenses. I guarantee you that if Jeff Hafley would, be hooked up to a lie detector test, would he say that the way that he had to play against Philly and Indy is his ideal way to play defense? I think he would probably say no. He'd probably say something to the effect of, we want to play the best defense based on who our opponent is, which is what he did the last 2 weeks and really trying to contain those quarterbacks. But I do think he wants to play a more fast-flowing pace of football, and having those quarterbacks that are mobile and you have to keep an extra eye on them, I think changes the calculus a little bit. So not only are, the defense or the offenses that we're about to see coming up a lot different than what we saw in Philly and Indy, this defense is also going to start feeling a lot more comfortable playing Jeff Hafley's style of defense as the season goes along. Remember Matt last year and this offense last year. Now, I know Matt's offense has mostly stayed the same, but you can tell he really put in some time, effort, and energy into maybe changing some of the things for Jordan Love and the young players last year. And it took until, the second half of last year, at least, to really see that offense and those players gel together and kind of figure it out together. I'm not saying that's going to have the same progression. Not everything is the same. It doesn't always work that way, but there could very well be a situation in which some of these defenders and the defense as a whole trends better as the year goes along, and they start becoming more familiar with the players in front of them, the players around them. For an example, Quay right now, a lot of the stuff that's going on the defensive line isn't what you would expect or what Quay would sort of practice. Like they're not always doing what they're supposed to right now. As time goes on, hopefully that gets cleaned up, but also Quay is like, okay, that's how Kenny's going to play in this situation, or that's how TJ is going to play, or that's how Devontae is going to play. And you start picking up on nuances and tendencies, and then it makes your job easier because you can anticipate what the players in front of you are going to do better, or what Isaiah McDuffie to the side of you is going to do in a given situation, or how the safeties are going to support you on the back end in a situation. Those things will start to gel more and come together a bit more. I'm going to go back to it and say, do I think ultimately this probably is who Quay is and we're probably just going to see this moving forward? Probably. But am I willing to completely say there's unequivocally no chance that we could see this defense and some of the individual players in it continue to grow as the season goes along? I absolutely think that that's a possibility. So let's see what this defense looks like against some of the non-mobile quarterbacks. It could look worse. We just don't know. I think it's going to look better, but we just don't know. And let's see how it looks, and let's see how Quay specifically looks as we kind of get further along into the season, because these things do not always happen at the same pace for everyone. Right around this time in Devontae's year 3, 2 weeks in, a lot of people ready to give up on Davante Adams too and wanted him out of town. So let's just hit the pause. He's not going anywhere in the near future. Are they likely right now to pick up his 5th-year option? Probably not. I would think that is extremely unlikely at this very moment, but he's going to be on the team this year and next year. He's probably going to start at middle linebacker for almost the entirety of this year, barring injury. Let's see what happens. Let's cheer him on. Let's hope that he continues to get better, and we'll continue to call out and talk about it if he doesn't, and then, kind of go from there. But right now, not what you would expect. And hopefully it just kind of gets better through these next few weeks and beyond. What do you think is Malik's ceiling? I think there's probably a ceiling somewhere in there where he can be a good, solid starting quarterback. I don't think he's ever going to be somebody that's great. I think the likely ceiling is a really good backup quarterback. And I think he can be better, certainly, than what we saw this past week, meaning you can trust him a little bit more and put a little bit more on his plate. And I think he can navigate some of that. I think the arm's good. I think the athletic ability is very good. And I think when you can do those two things, it's super important. I think the big thing that was making it so that Malik just couldn't function as a starter in the past was his decision-making and his time to throw. It was just taking too much time holding onto the ball. As I mentioned previously, he was at about 3.5 seconds in Indy when he started and played in regular season games, 3.5 seconds to throw. 3 seconds this past preseason, cut a whole second off, or half second off of it, which was really great. But in this game, he was at 2.5 seconds, a full second less than what he played like in Indy or in Tennessee when he was the starter and got playing time in the regular season there. That's a huge difference. So If he can show that he can be this sort of game manager style quarterback, plus he's got the arm, plus he's got the athleticism, he's just going to have a very long 10, 12-year career, Tyrod Taylor-esque career in this league. Now, that's a great place to be in, and making some spot starts here and there. Maybe some team gives him a flyer as a starting quarterback again at some point. I think that's probably what you're more looking at and I'm not just comparing the two. But I think that type of career could be what's in store for Malik Willis. But is there something that's higher than that as a mid-tier starting quarterback? I think there's probably something like that in there if he really reached his ceiling. But I would say more likely, again, a Tyrod Taylor-esque career. Ben Swanson, I'm one of the idiots that will spend to watch all, both on YouTube TV, love the NFL Plus, but sometimes it pretends I don't have a subscription. The NFL Plus, two things here. One, they have done a phenomenal job in revamping that thing and actually making it worthwhile. That is a huge aspect of that. But they still have this back-asswards, I guess, what am I trying to, like the actual screen, everything, the interface, there's the word I'm looking for. The actual interface itself is still brutal. Hopefully they continue to work on that. I'm hoping they continue to take steps, because right now the potential for that thing is out of this roof. But Ben, I get the same thing of sometimes I go to log in and it's like, you're already logged in, but it says you need to log in. And then it says you're not subscribed, but I go to my subscription and I'm subscribed. Like, it is a mess sometimes, but once you get in, at least the product that is there now is so much better than it's been in the past. The condensed game is great. You get the all 22 there. You can now find plays so much easier. They've done a nice job in revamping that thing. It's going to get better as time goes on, but I'm with you, Ben. There are still some wonky things that they need to clean up there. How big of a loss do you think Marshawn Lloyd will end up being? Not at all. I don't want to say not at all, but kind of not at all. What I mean by that is I think, first of all, they have good depth at the running back position. Josh Jacobs is going to be good. We've already seen Emmanuel Wilson be able to show up. And then I am really interested to see too, with Chris Brooks, what he can kind of bring to the table. I really liked his tape. And it's funny because I did the grades episode today, right before Matt LaFleur went live. And I talked about Chris Brooks and how excited I was and what he showed on tape. And I'm like, this was not just a normal practice squad running back that I was expecting when I went back and watched more. And then Matt LaFleur goes in his presser and is like super excited about Chris Brooks. This is more than we were expecting, and so on and so forth. I was like, all right, well, we're certainly on the same page there. I think he can fill that spot very easily. I'm kind of low-key excited about Chris Brooks. That was a really fun signing for Green Bay. And I think they'll be just fine with those three guys in the immediate future. And then it's not always the worst thing in the world to get a running back with some fresh legs back at midpoint or later in the year. Like Jacobs is probably going to, need some rest at some point. We'll see what happens with, the other two running backs, but getting a super talented top 100 running back back later in the season when, maybe your running backs are starting to wear down a little bit, that's not the worst thing in the world. So I don't think they're going to miss him now. I think this allows him to actually get healthy. I think putting him on IR was the right move. And hopefully in 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks, whatever it takes for him to get fully healthy, hopefully he's fully healthy and completely good to go. And we can see him really take off with fresh legs in the second half of the year. All right. I'm so glad that you brought this up, Kant, because I have been seeing a ton of this on social media. And I want to kind of go through it because I think it's very funny / interesting to me. There is, to me, just my opinion, 0.0% chance that the Packers will play Jordan Love in this game if they think there is any real chance of re-injury or that he can't protect himself. Or I saw people say they're going to RG3 Jordan Love. Let's hold on just a little bit. There is 0% chance that happens. He needs to get cleared by medical. Then they need to get a clear from Jordan that he is feeling good and good to go. Then they need to sort of look at it and ask the medical again. All right, he's cleared, but is he cleared and have no risk of re-injury? And of course, there's never no risk of re-injury, right? But is there a reasonable conclusion that he can get out of this game without re-injuring this thing? And that's the most likely situation. If there is any of that, that's false. If he's not cleared, he's not going. If he doesn't feel comfortable going, or it just is flaring up on him later in the week after practicing on Wednesday, he's not going. If they feel like he cannot protect himself or is not mobile enough where he could subject himself to hits where it's not even a re-injury, he just could be subjected to other injuries and big hits because he's not mobile enough, then they will not let him play. And if they just feel like the risk of re-injury is there, they will not let him play. So the Packers will be extremely cautious with this. And to the point being here, If Jordan Love is playing in this game, I have zero fear whatsoever that, like, oh my goodness, the Packers are pushing this too far, too fast. None. It won't even enter my mind, period. I will feel extremely confident that the Packers feel extremely confident that there is no re-injury risk and that they feel completely comfortable with him out there and he is good to go. They will not rush him back. They will be cautious with it. And maybe he plays this week, maybe he doesn't. But I wholeheartedly feel that if he is playing, this is not going to be something where, like, well, they rushed him back too quick and now look what happened. They just will not do that. I really, truly believe that. So I have no concern about it. I believe that they will make the right decision. If they sit him because they're like, you know what? He's cleared. He feels good. And the doctors are saying there's really not a re-injury risk. But you know what? We're just going to be extra cautious and on the safe side and give it one more week. I 1,000,000% support that too. But I trust them and I trust their decision-making here. They're not going to rush back. They just put all of the money into Jordan Love, all of the money. There is no way that they have a short-sighted approach enough to be like, it's a must win against the Titans this week. We've got to get this win or our season is screwed. They won't look at it that way. They will be cautious. And if he's not ready, he's not ready. And if he's ready, they're going to play him. If he's ready to go, they will play him. They should play him. And you just make that decision based off the medical. And I think that's what they'll do. And I trust it either way. And I don't think there's any concern for me that they'll screw this up in any capacity. All right. Thank you, Preston, for the super chat. All the Packers' problems at quarterback are solved if they'd simply call Raji up and run read options all game. It'd certainly be interesting. Love the content or the comment, Preston. Always fun to add a little humor to the conversation here. What would you call the BJ Raji? Some sort of freezer offense? I don't know. I'll have to workshop that a little bit. But I do love the fact that they were able to game plan a plan together to get Malik Willis in a very comfortable situation. It was a really nice trade from Goody too. Give him credit. I don't know if they win that game with Sean Clifford. I certainly don't think that they win that game, with Michael Pratt. And, maybe they win it if they go with Taylor Heineke, whatever. But like they found a guy that could execute the offense the way that they needed it to. I give credit to Matt a ton. I give credit to Malik Willis, but give credit to Goody too for pulling the trigger on that, getting Malik Willis in town and having a quarterback there that can help get you a win. Heartbroken. I took the $7 per month NFL option to listen to Wayne and Rock. I was just so happy to be listening to them. I forgot how much Sunday ticket prices are. Yeah, they're very, very expensive, but that's a good plan to get Wayne and Rock. Always a plus there. Any cause for concern for Kenny Clark or Christian Watson slow start? Watson, absolutely not. It was, the wide receivers basically got 1 week right against Philly. And then last week was just a run game bonanza. Like they weren't scheming stuff up for wide receivers. They ran a couple plays here and there. They threw one ball. I was talking to Nagler the other day where if there were 35 passes in a game for Jordan Love, like Jordan Love is going to attempt 35 passes, there are not enough balls to go to feed every mouth in this offense. There's going to be somebody that's left out when you're throwing the ball 35 times because you're going to get checkdowns to the running backs. The tight ends are going to get fed. And then you've got 5 wide receivers that are trying to get fed within the offense as well. 35 passes will not be enough to satiate everyone in this offense, period. When it's 14 passes, there's not even remotely close. Plus, you're being extra cautious. You're checking stuff down more, making some really easy, quick throws. So there's no reason to even judge the wide receivers other than the fact that I thought they did a really nice job in run blocking. And when Dobbs got his opportunity, he got a touchdown. When Wicks got an opportunity, when Dobbs got the opportunity, he made the big play down the field and Wicks got the touchdown. I thought the wide receivers did a nice job, but I wouldn't judge anything on the wide receivers at this point because we only saw really one game for them that they had a real opportunity against Philly. So no concerns there. With Kenny, Kenny's been a little bit more apt to get off to a slow start to start the season as of late. So I don't know if they need to change that up and maybe play Kenny a little bit more in preseason. It's always tough because you don't want to really put any more snaps because he's their usual top snap getter at defensive tackle for 17 games and you want to keep him healthy. But he usually now is at the point of his career, especially these last few seasons where it definitely is something where it kind of takes him a little bit of ramp up time. So not concerned about Kenny, just want to see him get playing a little bit better sooner rather than later. But I'm sure by crunch time, by the end of the year and well before that, we'll see Kenny start playing a lot better football would be my guess. All right. My balls itch. Love the screen name always, buddy. Any value in bringing in Mason Crosby to help Coach Narveson the quirks of Lambeau Field, i.e. wind, cold weather, kicking, etc.? Could he also be an emergency sub if things go south? my friend, I say this in the nicest way possible. Please, everyone, we just need to move on from Mason Crosby. There's nothing that Mason Crosby is going to be able to interject into Braden Narvison to have him kick a little bit better and in Lambeau. Nothing that couldn't happen on a 5-minute phone conversation, quite honestly. So Mason Crosby's not going to be a kicker. He's not going to be a practice squad guy. He's not going to be a consultant. He's not going to have anything to do. He will end up probably maybe in the Packers Hall of Fame. I don't know. That's an interesting question, actually. But that will be the next time we see Mason in Lambeau, is for an alumni event or as maybe a member of the Packers Hall of Fame someday. It's done. It's over. It's gone. That's it. We just need to stop any conversation of Mason Crosby being anywhere involved in the team. He did not look good in New York last year. His career's over. To an extent, I just wish Mason would be like, I'm retired, just so we can stop having the conversations. But no, I don't see any world in which Mason is involved in this team in any capacity. And there might be something coming up where we hear about Mason Crosby in a different walk of life coming up in the near future. A little bit of a teaser there. Let's see. Where do we leave off here? Just making sure. All right, Kevin, you think better to do Bullard at slot and Evan Williams at safety, or stick with Nixon in the slot and Bullard at safety currently? I'm going to start with Javon Bullard, because what I want Javon Bullard, especially as a rookie right now, is to play his best football in his most natural position. I am an extremely firm believer that Javon Bullard is a safety first and foremost. I'm not saying he can't play some in the slot. I just believe that he is a really, really good safety and pairs extremely well with Xavier McKinney. I love what I see from Javon Bullard so far at safety. And where do I want him? Because he's playing great at that spot, safety. And do I want as a rookie to put too much on his plate and start confusing him and having him do a bunch of other stuff? No chance. I want him to master that safety position and continue to get better, because I think Green Bay found a big time safety that can play that spot for a long time. And that's where I want him focused. So I understand that at some point you might have to have conversations of how do we get our best guys on the field. And that might be Evan Williams and Javon Bullard together, in which case you may need to figure out something a little bit more for Javon. I get that. I understand that. Right now, early in the season, we're not playing any playoff matchups today. I want Javon to be fully focused at safety. That being said, I do think there is a world, and I think this is probably, in my opinion, the best world, where Keisean Nixon is still your primary slot corner, but not for 65 snaps per game. And Ben Fennell and I talked about this, probably like 9 months ago, before Javon Bullard was even a Green Bay Packer. Evan Williams was even a Green Bay Packer. But I'm a believer that you need to mix and match that spot a little bit more. There's too much variety at that spot for just one dude, unless you have Charles Woodson in his prime, Jalen Ramsey in his prime, someone like that, Rod Woodson. Like, then maybe you could figure something out there, Ronnie Lott, etc. But unless you have that dude, to me, you kind of have to mix and match. And I would love, if you're going to stay in nickel and against some 12 personnel, that's a good time for me to say, let's see what Javon Bullard can do in the slot for 8 to 10 snaps per game and get Evan Williams some more playing time at safety in that situation. I think there is a package there for, again, 8 to 10 snaps per game that makes sense. That you're not moving Javon Bullard off of his spot full time or anything like that, but you're giving him a little taste. Just like you're giving, Edgerrin Cooper 7-8 snaps of linebacker right now, and Jordan Morgan some snaps right now at offensive line, and you're giving Evan Williams, 10-15 snaps and so on and so forth. Let's give Javon Bullard 8 to 10 snaps just to see. Guess what? I've been wrong before. I could be wrong again. Maybe Javon Bullard will look like the greatest slot corner we have ever seen. I don't think that's the case, and I think he's a better safety, but I've been wrong before. It'll happen again. Let's give him a shot. Let's see 8 to 10 snaps per game there, especially maybe against some 12 personnel. And let's see in some very clear and obvious 3rd and 18, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 12, whatever it might be, where they're passing the football and you feel very confident that Stokes and Valentine are both good cover corners on the outside because you continue to play both of them. All right, let's see it. If it comes down to pure coverage, I would rather have Stokes and Valentine on the outside with Jaire in the slot than Jaire and somebody on the outside with Nixon in the slot, because that's not necessarily Nixon's best forte. Like, that's not what he does best. So do I think that Nixon is still the primary slot? Yes. Do I think he can be the primary slot? Yes. Do I think he's this unbelievable, no doubt about it, should be the starting slot for forever? No. Like, I would love to continue to have conversations and competition at that spot, but I think he's going to be the guy for this year and probably even next year. But can we get Javon Bullard a little time there? Yes. Can we get Jaire a little time there? Yes. And I think that's when you will see it, settle in a little bit more. And that also gives you some of those snaps to get, again, Stokes and Valentine on the outside, to get Evan Williams at safety. I think there are ways to do that without, kind of completely reinventing everything and still keeping Javon Bullard primarily at that safety position. So that's the direction that I would go with it. Dan, Andy, do you think the offense will be affected by that display of running against the Colts the whole season? I'm assuming you mean in like a positive way, Dan. Like they will, that Matt learned something that they can, be effective on the ground. I think Matt's going to be well aware of what they did in that game and understand that, hey, maybe we can build some more offenses in certain matchups that can be run first. So many times I think coaches sometimes overthink it and be like, you know what, we've got Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre or Jordan Love or whomever, and we've got to go out and we've got to throw the ball around. That's our best chance to win. Sometimes there are games where, yes, you've got a star quarterback, but I would always like to see you start by trying to do some of the stuff that you did against the Colts early. Because if you can do that and establish it, and the Colts were playing for the run because they knew Jordan wasn't back there. Imagine Jordan or Aaron or Brett are back there and you develop a running game like that early in the game. Now what happens? We saw the Colts sell out in the second half to stop the run and go with a bare front, 5 players on the front line. Imagine you go into the second half in that game. You run the way that they did with the running backs and everyone in the first half, run it a bunch of times. That defense is gassed. And now you, in the second half, get these unbelievable looks and can just have Jordan throw the ball against those looks anytime that you want. Just imagine that. So I would love to see, a little bit more of like, hey, go into the game like you have Malik Willis and that you have to run the ball to save your life. And if it doesn't work, then you can always fall back on, well, we've got Jordan Love and all these weapons on offense and we can spread it out and do whatever we need to do. But go into some games first and see if you can go in and run the ball right down people's throats. Because if you can, great. I don't care who's quarterback. That's going to be an advantage for you. I understand you want to stay balanced. I understand you want to feed the mouths on the outsides too. But man, if you can run the ball, do it. And I think Matt did learn a little something about what this team is capable of from a running standpoint. And I think that's an important lesson to learn early in the season. We'll see how much it means to him in the play calling and the run game as the remainder of the season goes along. All right, John, what do we got? So flip Malik for a fourth, get Carolina to pay most of Bryce Young's contract and let Matt LaFleur fix him next offseason. I think you're in a good spot right now where Malik is just your backup QB next year. And then you kind of go from there. I was thinking of this the other day. Justice would have been a fun conversation to have this one with, of just, let's have a fun random conversation. What would be like a reasonable contract extension that you would offer Malik Willis right now? Would you say, we're going to give you 3 years, $15 million on top of your current contract. So you've got all of this year for cheap, all of next year for cheap. We're going to do 3 years, $15 million. So you've got 5 years of Malik Willis. And it's kind of one of those really interesting conversations, because would Malik take it? Would Malik say, actually, I kind of want to see what happens these next 2 years, because if things go well, maybe I can get a starting job somewhere else. If you're Green Bay, you're like, all right, we get 2 years of super cheap Malik. And then if we're going to pay $5 million for a backup quarterback, that's going to be easily the going rate at that point anyway. We'll just sign up for that right now. And then, if he all of a sudden hits a lot better, oh my goodness, we've got this really good quarterback now that maybe we can ship off for draft capital later. None of it's going to happen. They'll let this year play out and probably next year play out. And he's probably the backup. And this was just one game. I'm not jumping to any conclusions, but these are just the weird ways that my mind thinks of what would be a reasonable discussion on a contract extension for both sides where you could just lock him up as the backup. And to be honest, I wouldn't necessarily be against that based on what he showed this past week. You can win games with him as the backup, which is step number one. And I would assume he only gets better with more time in this offense and more time with Tom Clements. So again, I don't think any of those discussions are even remotely taking place or entering anyone's mind, but just a fun random conversation that I thought of nonetheless. What is something that stands out, positive or negative, when you're watching film on Rasheed Walker? Negative, he's just been a little bit too penalty prone as of late. He's got 3 holding penalties and a false start penalty through 2 weeks. I just think he needs to settle in a little bit. And I don't know if he's pressing a little bit. I don't know if he's, yeah, I don't know what it is, but I thought he had a great end of last year, and I thought he had a great training camp. So he'll settle in. I'm not super concerned. And he had a neutral game for me this past week, so it wasn't anything bad, but I think he can be good. I think he can help this team win. And I think he can be the long-term left tackle for Green Bay. On the good side, he's really athletic, doesn't usually panic. Again, some of those holding penalties are a little bit panic driven. Really great footwork, not often giving up pressures, not easily beat off the ball, makes people earn it more often than not. So there's a lot of really good stuff there from Sheed. I think he will settle into the season. Remember, this is another player that didn't play much in preseason. I think he gets a really good matchup this week against Arden Key. I think that's one that Walker can win. And hopefully that kind of gets him a little bit of confidence. Bad week 1, neutral week 2. I'm hoping for a very positive week 3 and then get him trending in the right direction. What are the member benefits? So you get early access to every video. So whenever I'm done with it, I post it. Sometimes it's late at night. So sometimes it's not a huge thing. A lot of times they get posted at 12 or 1. But like today, the Mike Wall video was posted this morning, and that one won't go live until tomorrow. So you get first access. You get a members only Q&A. You get Aaron Nagler and I talking a preview show every single week. You get additional Ross Uglum content, usually 2 to 3 episodes per week on that during season at least. And then you also get there's other things that are out there as well. If you want to become a all-pro, you can get on the Wall of Fame. You can get me following you on social media. You can get monthly one-on-one calls, a 15-minute conversation over the phone or via Zoom or whatever's easiest for you. There's a lot of different perks that are out there. So you can check it out on the members page on YouTube, on the Pack-A-Day Podcast YouTube page. Just go to members and you can get signed up over there. It's also in the description every day to sign up to become a member. So on every video in the description, you can find the link to sign up to become a member there. Emily, thanks for being here. When Jordan comes back, do you think there will be any rust? Maybe a little, not any that I'm like super concerned about, but there'll probably be a little bit. And that's why Matt really wanted him to practice this week, is just to get some of those reps. I think sometimes we forget, like, practice is really, really important for these guys to get ready for a game. And a lot of times when you get some of these injured players and it's like they didn't practice Wednesday, they didn't practice Thursday, they went through a walkthrough on Friday and then they play, a lot of times you will see a little bit of a dip in their play, because that practice stuff is really important for these guys. And I know some of these, vets and really good players, it may not seem like it, but you're not getting those reps in practice. It's really hard to go out there on Sunday against the best in the world and just be ready to go. So I could see maybe a little bit, but hopefully if he can continue to practice this week, that will be a very good sign for Jordan. My guess is Thursday probably an off day for him, and then he would go through the walkthrough on Friday, remains questionable, and then a game time decision on Sunday. That's kind of how I think this will play out, but we'll just have to kind of wait and see. And I would also say, I think they're going to probably keep the game plan similar, whether it's Willis or Love, and try to run the football, try to be multidimensional, and not put too much on Jordan's plate anyway. So hopefully, whether it's Willis or Love, they can really be balanced on offense and not have to have the quarterback do a bunch of heavy lifting in this one. Orton Goodfellow, great name. Thank you so much for becoming a member. Appreciate that a ton. Obviously, we just went over the perks, so hopefully you will appreciate and enjoy all of those. Andre Ella, do you think Jordan Love is better than CJ Stroud, Justin Herbert, or Matthew Stafford? Andre, if I know that in the sports world, we just love to have all these hot takes, and I would love to rank all 4 of them for you. I would probably go, I don't even know. This is a really difficult conversation, but the truth of the matter is, if I was going to really rank these, I would want to go and watch a lot more all 22 of CJ Stroud, a lot more all 22 of Justin Herbert, and a lot more all 22 of Matthew Stafford. I think all 4 of these players are in a similar little grouping. I think all of them are talented. I think if you wanted to rank all 4 of them in almost any order, I think you could be right. And I think you can make an argument for it, to be totally honest. I think they're that in the same vicinity. If I had to say off the top of my head, and again, the other part of this conversation, Andre, we have to have, are we talking one game, the remainder of the season? Are we talking about for the remainder of their career? Am I starting a franchise new? So all of that goes kind of into it too. But I'll say if I had to pick one for the remainder of this year, man, that's tough. That is really tough. I'm going to put Stafford 4th, which is crazy because he's really good too. I'm going to put Stafford 4th. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I would probably lean towards maybe Love 3rd, Stroud 2nd, Herbert 1st, Stroud 1st, Herbert 2nd. again, you can order them any way you want, and I don't find any real fault in you, to be honest. But that's a really good question. And I really love Stroud. I think Herbert, if he ever got the right offense with the right weapons, I think Herbert would be the best one on here, honestly. But he's just not been in the right situation, in my opinion. Stroud, I think, ends up being the best of these four long term. If I were starting a franchise today, I would take Stroud. If I had one game, I could go Stroud, Love, Stafford. Man, I don't know. I think you can go any direction with those. It's a really good group of four either way. All right. Greg Olson did nice on the announcing on Sunday. Did you rub elbows? No, different boxes. So announcers are in the one to our left, and then the media is to the right. So different press boxes. So not the same one. He's great though. Absolutely love Greg Olson. He does a phenomenal job. What's one thing you were wrong about so far with this team, and one thing that you were right about that probably maybe nobody else expected? All right. So things that I was right about, I was worried about linebacker. That was one of the things going in that I'm like, are we really sure? Like, we've seen 2 years of Quay. Isaiah McDuffie has not been the answer in previous years. And now Eric Wilson is going to play more, and Cooper and Hopper are young and inexperienced and are probably going to need some time. I definitely was like, be wary of linebacker. I also said, Tucker Kraft would be tight end one. I've been saying that for like a year now. Like, Tucker Kraft is tight end one. Tucker Kraft is tight end one. It's not going to be close. Tucker Kraft is tight end one, and Tucker Kraft is very clearly tight end number one. So those are things that I definitely got right. Thankfully, I don't think I'm ever wrong. I'm just kidding. I'm trying to think. I'm sure there's things that I've gotten wrong here. There's probably some obvious ones that I'm just not thinking of off the top of my head. I mean, wide receiver rotation has been pretty normal. Well, I definitely got the one wrong in the offseason where I said Aaron Jones will be back, put it in blood or something like that. I definitely got that one wrong. Trying to think. Everything's been sort of as expected so far. And that's not to be like, oh, look at me, I'm smart. It's just like, I think a lot of the stuff that we expected has kind of gone according to plan. I'm not willing to judge the edge or defensive tackle pass rush stuff until we see it against a more, traditional offense and not the crazy mobile corner stuff. Maybe Eric Stokes is probably one that I would say has just been a really pleasant surprise so far. And I said, and I stand by what I said. I don't think I was wrong at the time, but I said, go back. Really good rookie year. I don't think anyone's debating that, especially the way that he had to be basically thrown in as kind of the number one corner that year. Like, he did a really great job. Then the start of year two, those 5, 6, 7 games or whatever it was that he played before getting hurt were really bad. I mean, they were really bad. And then he gets hurt for the remainder of the year. Barely plays last year, all but 2 games, and did not look good in those 2 games, a ton of rust. And when he came back, I said, I don't know what this looks like. I don't know if he has the same speed. I don't know if he has the same athleticism. I don't know if he looks like he did in those couple weeks before, or those weeks before he got hurt in his second year, and he's just not good. I don't know if Green Bay's going to have appetite. And I said at the time, like, if he comes in and he doesn't have his athleticism and he just looks bad, like, I literally didn't know if he was going to have a roster spot on this team. And I stand by that. I think if he would have just looked awful and not had the same athleticism, I think Green Bay would have I think he probably would have stuck around, but certainly not playing in any real capacity. But I also said, like, if he comes back and he looks like he did his rookie year better, like, this is a huge win. I didn't necessarily expect that. So I'm pleasantly surprised so far with the way that Stokes has looked like himself. I think he looks very similar to the way he did his rookie year through 2 games. I think it's wise to have the competition with him and Valentine still. And I think Valentine might still be just a tick better than Stokes, but I'm very, very pleasantly surprised by the way that Stokes has looked so far. And he looks at worst like a viable option as a starting corner, and he doesn't look out of place in that spot. So very, very excited so far about the way that Stokes has looked. All right, Andre, what is the most memorable NFL game that you have been to? This is always a two-way answer for me. There are 2 that will always go to the top of my list. The first, my very first game ever, Kittrick Taylor, back of the end zone, Packers Bengals. Don Majkowski goes out with an injury. In comes Brett Favre and really makes his kind of, legitimate debut, leads the Packers back to victory. I'm in my end zone seats. My dad lifts me up so I can see Kittrick Taylor catch the game-winning touchdown right in the end zone I was sitting in. And if you want to know why I'm here today and baptized in the green and gold, it doesn't take much more than going to your very first game and seeing Brett Favre come in and throw a game-winning touchdown to Kittrick Taylor. that was pretty freaking special and will be one of the all-time moments of my life, period. And then the Seahawks playoff game in the snow, Brett Favre throwing underhanded, and just like the most fun atmosphere I've ever had at Lambeau. The snow was amazing. It's just a snow globe of a game, and just one of those all-time memorable ones that I got to be at. So both of those as fans, both in the same seats and different experiences, but those are definitely my two favorite. Favorite non-Packer NFL player? It's a great question. Trying to think who I really enjoy. I really actually enjoy Baker Mayfield. I love watching him play, and I'm a big Baker guy. So, and just the way that he's gotten out of Cleveland and Carolina on these crappy situations and has really made a name for himself. Baker's definitely up there. TJ Watt's always massively fun to watch. And of course, being a former Badger is a cool story there too. So TJ Watt's definitely on my list. Trying to think of some other ones. There's a ton. Aaron Donald was always somebody that I just could turn on every single time and watch him play at any given moment. Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, those two are beyond amazing to watch. Yeah, so those are some off the top of my head. I love watching Mahomes play. He's a special dude. There's something about Josh Allen and just the way that he plays quarterback that is always entertaining. He's not my favorite, but maybe one of the more entertaining players. Lamar Jackson too. There's a ton, but those are just some that kind of come to mind immediately. All right. Another nice Brettel episode today. He's so great. He's so good at what he does. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it because I love all of our guests. I think they all do such a tremendous job, and just really blessed to get to talk football with some really smart people every single week. I'm loving the addition of X. He's a real difference maker. Yeah, that was a no-brainer, right? Like everyone could see like X just fits perfectly in this defense. So that was an easy one to see. Jen, glad you could make it to a live one. X said he's able to have his 2 interceptions and gave credit Hafley is letting him use his instincts. How much is it this Hafley scheme versus letting the players play, or too early to tell? Well, we heard Matt talk about it the other day, right? Of wanting to get vision on the ball. And I think when you put your players in a position to see the ball and react to it, you're just putting them in more opportunities to be successful. And there's no perfect scheme. There's going to be upsides and downsides to everything. And you got to let your players play, and you got to make sure that you're putting them in a position to be as successful as you possibly can. But with this defense, you're going to have more opportunities for takeaways because guys are able to be a bit more instinctual and make some plays on the ball. And we saw that with McKinney, specifically in that first game. Saw that in Jaire in the first game as well, the play that he made. So more eyes on the ball, more opportunities to go make a play. And we're seeing that through 2 weeks with 5 interceptions. It could have easily been more so far. So I think you've got a really good match of a big-time player addition in Xavier McKinney, which is always going to help, but a defense that's putting these players in positions to go make plays. Andy, my players to watch on D are Gary, Clark, and LVN because of that O-line. How about you? I think I love the way that the Packers defensive line matches up. Petit Frere gave up like 10 pressures last week. So Rashawn Gary versus Petit Frere is fantastic. I love that matchup. I actually think Devontae Wyatt versus Dylan Raduns can be a very good matchup for Green Bay as well. And then JC Latham is going to be, I think, a really good player in this league. But sometimes you get a rookie offensive tackle who's not maybe quite as well versed in like the minutia and the details of the game. And now you get a vet in Preston Smith that is just going to probably be able to pull one over on the rookie Latham a couple times a game. I think Clark can stack up against Skoronski and Cushenberry at center. I really like the way that this defensive front matches up. So I like all of it, quite frankly. But Gary, Wyatt, and Preston, I think all have fun matchups in this one. Jason, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that a ton. Do you think Jordan having to play with this injury will become a superpower in the sense of it will force him to learn to settle down and take he's given? Sometimes he tries to do too much. I like where your head's at, and I definitely see what you're saying. I don't think Jordan goes full Brett mode where it's just like he's constantly trying to do too much and make plays. I think there's a little bit of that. I think we saw a tiny bit of it in Philly. I thought he was at his best at the end of last year when he was distributing and getting the ball out of his hands and letting the playmakers do some of the heavy lifting. But I think what this can do is maybe take a little of that burden of being the highest paid quarterback, at least up until Dak's contract, just that huge contract, and feeling like, oh my God, I have to go out and make all these big plays, and just be like, hey, you're a little bit banged up. You don't have to be Superman. Take what's given out there, get the ball in your hands of your playmakers, and just distribute the ball and let them do the work. And I do think there can be a bit of an advantage there. you could potentially lose out on a little bit of the upside and the ability to ad lib and make more plays. And you might end up taking a sack or two more. So there's always a plus minus there. If I had my choice, I'd choose a healthy Jordan over this 1,000,000%. But I do think he can maybe settle into the season a little bit more, distribute the ball, get the ball out of its hands, which I think can be a very good thing for this offense. Colin, member for 4 months. Appreciate that, man. We expect Kenny to bounce back this week. I just want to see a leveling out a little bit. I don't know that he needs to go and have his best game of the year or anything like that. I actually thought he graded a slight positive for me this past week. So it's not like he had a bad week in week 2. Thought he was rough in week 1. I thought there were some plays that were uncharacteristic in week 2, but I still thought he was a net positive. Hoping for a little bit more from Kenny in week 3. Not concerned. Like I said, he usually takes a little bit of time to ramp up. He'll get better and not overly concerned about it. All right. Torrey Taylor was the Bears' best draft pick this year. Man, I tweeted out the last week that the Bears really did draft a generational player. The rumors were true. Torrey Taylor is amazing. So we're on the same wavelength there, Reese is 04. But yeah, he's a really good punter. Caleb's going to be really good stuff. I really wholeheartedly believe that. You go watch the tape. There were no wide receivers open, and he got crunched. Like kudos to him for just getting up and getting up and getting up. That offensive line is not good. Kudos to Bill Belichick too for kind of calling it. Was it Belichick? I think Belichick did, just calling out of. I think he was on McAfee, and he was calling out of saying like, "Hey, you went out and you traded for Keenan Allen. You spent a top pick on Rome Odunze. You just gave this massive contract to DJ Moore." And you didn't really put much into that offensive line. I know they spent a top 10 pick on Darnell Wright last year. They gave a big contract to Nate Davis last year. But like there were a lot of really good offensive linemen that they could have had when they drafted Odunze, right? I think Alt was gone. But Fuaga was definitely there. Let's see here. So they drafted Odunze at 9, I want to say. Yeah, 9. So Latham and Alt were both gone. Fashanu for the Jets was there at 11. And then Fuaga, I think, for the Saints would have been the big one. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind right now that if they drafted Fuaga instead of Odunze, they're probably in a much, much better position and can protect Caleb a lot better. So I love the joke here, Reese's. I'm still a believer in Caleb. He's got to be better, no question about it. He's looked a lot shakier than I thought he was going to 2 weeks in, but his offense is doing him no favors. And the one thing I said, if you're an NFL fan, you just want him to succeed, and hopefully he does at some point. If you're a Packers fan and you want him to fail, well, he went to the right franchise, because I think that is a special player, and the Bears have a very special knack of ruining some very good QBs. So we'll see. I still think and I still believe he's going to be a good quarterback, though. Why do you think Luke Musgrave fell to tight end number 2? I think there's a variety of things. I think the most important one and the best news here is I don't think Musgrave fell to 2. I think Tucker Kraft exploded to 1. That's the best news. I don't think Musgrave is like, oh my God, what a bust, or he's not playing well. I just think Kraft is better, and he exploded onto the scene, and he's the better of the 2 tight ends. So you make that guy tight end 1, and Musgrave will still play a lot. And I think he could actually have a really important role this week, because I think they're going to get a little bit more play action. And I think these linebackers in Tennessee are very susceptible to a player like Luke Musgrave. So I think he could have a nice week this week. But to me, it has a lot less to do with Musgrave than it just has to do a lot with Tucker Kraft. But you want to look at the main thing, just look at the blocking. Tucker Kraft's a very good blocker, and Luke Musgrave is not. Musgrave is a get in the way, I'm going to be in the right spot, but I'm not super physical blocker, which isn't bad, especially for a more receiving tight end. But the blocking is the huge difference, and that's why Tucker Kraft is tight end 1 and Musgrave is 2. But I think we're going to see Musgrave still get 35 snaps a game as tight end 2 more often than not, and that's a good spot for him to be in, by the way. I love this 2 tight end group. I think they'll both continue to get better, but to me, Tucker Kraft is unequivocally number 1, and I don't see that changing in their careers in Green Bay, to be honest. Emily, what does it mean to be medically cleared? Does that mean Jordan is 100% back to himself, or just that he is able to protect himself? He has to be medically cleared in the effect of that he can, withstand the ability to do everything that he needs to in a game, meaning he can drop back without the pain or the risk of re-injury. Means that he can go out and execute the game plan the way that he needs to. Again, there is no legitimate risk of re-injury. Those are the sort of things. Every player and every injury is going to be a little bit different on how they're checking some of those things off. But, because every player has some ailment or injury going into pretty much every single week. But Yeah, I think risk of re-injury and being able to go out and execute the way that you're needed to are two of the big check marks on that list. And he'll have to go through the entire protocol and get cleared. And hopefully he can do that. But if not, like I said, I think they'll be very cautious with him. My issue with Quay hasn't been the scheme. My issue is the mentality. He seems to hesitate too much instead of just attacking. Yeah, I don't have any major qualms with what you're saying, John. I think he does need to attack a little bit more. It's easier said than done. We would all love everyone attacking. You can't always attack. Defenses will take advantage of you if you're just always attacking. So there has to be a level of wisdom that comes with that. But yes, I would like to see him play a little bit more fast and aggressive. Has JC Latham lived up to the high draft status? I want to go back and watch a little bit more tape before I jump to any conclusions on that. I think Latham's going to be just fine. I think he's going through a little bit of the rookie learning curve, but I think he's still going to be a very good player in this league. I think the Titans game is a huge test for this defense. You've played some tough games versus strong, unique offenses. Now go beat up a weaker one. I'm with you, Techwin. I want to see this team go out and set the tone against Tennessee's offense. Listen, Kelvin Ridley's really good. Tony Pollard looks back to normal. Cushenberry's a very good center. They've got some good offensive linemen up there, but this is a matchup you can win on defense. And there's no reason that the Titans need to be in the 20s or above. If they hold them under 20, I think that's a fair result in this game, and it'll give Green Bay a chance to win. Anything 20 or more, and I know that's a lot to ask in an NFL game on the road, but I think anything 20 or more is a little bit disappointing in this game because I like this matchup for Green Bay's defense, and I think they can go out and set the tone in this one. So that's what I want to see, and I'm with you, Techwin. That LVN played pretty well. What did you think? Yeah, he's my highest graded edge player in both of the games so far. Now they're using him sparingly, which I think is the right thing to do. I think he's still picking up the nuances of the game. But what you want to see is when a player is playing a part-time role like that they can come in and set a tone and really look good. And I think LVN through the past 2 weeks has played good football. Do I think he's ready for 40, 50, 60 snaps? I don't. But do I think that I'm very happy that he's playing well in the snaps that he's given? Yeah. And he's my highest graded edge rusher so far. So that's a good start. And I will absolutely take it from him right now. Just goes to show what coaching and playing to their strengths can do. Agree with you. Even if Jordan can go this week, I'd still like to see Malik play in the fourth quarter when 10 did his job and we're up by 3 scores. Love it, Jake. Not the only one with the NFL Plus issue. No, I definitely have that issue from time to time as well. Don't try rotating the screen. Is that a NFL Plus thing? I'm not sure of. We talked about that angry casual fan. They will absolutely not rush him back. If he plays, he's going to be healthy enough to play. Do you think people talking about if the Packers have a true wide receiver one made Myers vomit? I'm not sure what it was, but we definitely saw some vomit in that game from both him and Elton Jenkins. Jason, appreciate it again. Took a stadium tour and saw the media press box and didn't know you guys cheer or you get kicked out, or can't cheer, you get kicked out. That must be rough sometimes. It's actually really not. It's a working environment. And people always say, and like the old taboo is like, oh, you can't be a fan and cover the team. You can't do both at once. And I think we've definitely moved past that. But the way I always sort of define it is I worked in HR prior to working in, full-time covering the Packers. So HR Andy is not same at the bar Andy. You're going to get two very different Andys when I'm in my HR role at my job and when I'm at the bar. Those are two very different Andys. It is not hard for me to go out of the bar and go to my job every day and be a professional. Is no issue whatsoever. So whether I'm watching the game at home as a fan or in the stands as a fan or at the bar as a fan, when I go to work and I go in the press conferences, when I go to practices, when I go in the press box, that's professional Andy. And I'm going to be covering the team. It's not that I'm not cheering for the team internally. I'm still hoping that they do well, but there's never been an instance where like there's a player where I'm like, oh, come on, what just happened? Or like, yeah, I'd start cheering, just never, ever would even remotely cross my mind. So the separation of church and state there a little bit is pretty real. And it is not even remotely difficult in any way, shape or form. So I would not need that reminder every week. I would not need a notice of that I could lose my credential. There's 0% chance that I would go into any environment like that and feel like cheering would be a thing that I would even want to do in that situation. So it's good. And that's why I said earlier when somebody asked about what do I enjoy more, there's advantages and disadvantages to everything. I really enjoy my time in the press box. I think it's cool. Otherwise I wouldn't go, quite frankly, I would just watch it from home. But I do really enjoy it. I think it's a great experience and it's just a little bit different. You get that professional environment, which I don't mind at all. All right. Only saw like 20 seconds of Jay Love, but he looked solid. He looked mobile. He looked spry. Didn't look like he was favoring it at all. There's the one thing that Wes posted where he was jumping on the one leg, and I'm like, all right, man, he looks good. And obviously I'm no doctor at all, but he looked the part in the little, like you said, the few clips that we saw. Salute chat. It's been said, but Bears repeating. We don't put Bears in the chat here, R.R. Smith. Really excited about this offense if they can marry the run game shown against the Colts and the pass game shown last year. LaFleur, Dr. Doom level genius. I will say this. I'm bracing myself a little bit. If you remember, go back to watch the Bears game in week 1 last year, and they did all this really fun stuff. They had that play where they threw back across the field and they were super prepared and everything looked amazing. And then they had the game plan against like the Saints, and it looked like, are we back in the Middle Ages? So I do think there are times where Matt like overthinks it a little bit and like doesn't get creative in certain weeks for I don't know what reason. So I'm bracing myself a little bit of like, could we see one of those weeks where like he kind of forgets that he just put all this really fun stuff and he still has a bunch of creative stuff in his offense? So I'm hoping we don't see that. But man, when he is on his game, there are few, if any, that are as good as Matt LaFleur calling a game. He can really get on one and really be fun to watch. Vikes in first place in the NFC North. Am I surprised? Nothing is surprising in a 2-week, sample size, especially when week 1 is always bizarre and you never quite know what you're going to get. So not shocked. Would I have been predicting it or expecting it? No, not at all. I do think that they have a really good team, and the only question mark was really the quarterback position. And I really thought McCarthy was looking really good before he went down hurt. I still thought Darnold was going to be the guy, but man, Darnold looks the part through 2 weeks, and that can become a problem, quite frankly, for the Packers if Darnold is just really good. I'm not willing to go there quite yet, but even if he can just go out and execute the offense the way that he did these past 2 weeks, that becomes a playoff team in Minnesota. It really does. They've got the running back. They got the wide receivers. They'll get Hawkinson back at some point. They've got a pretty legit offensive line. I still think their interior needs a little bit of work. That defense is always tough to play against with Flores. So, and I think what they did with Grenard and Van Ginkel was one of the, to me, I said this before the season started, you can go back and listen to my Vikings video. I thought Van Ginkel was the most underrated signing of the entire year. What he did in Miami in the second half of last year was awesome. And he fits, there may not be many edge players in the league that fit better in Flores' defense than Van Ginkel, because he can be the guy standing up rushing. You can play him as a true off-ball linebacker. You can use him as a true edge rusher. He is a unique chess piece that fits unbelievable in that defense. So they've got some weaknesses. I'm not crowning Minnesota. I'm not saying they're going to finish first in the North. I'm not saying, I do think though, if Darnold continues to play the way that he has, I think they're a playoff team. I really, really do. Yes, but happy for the San Francisco loss. Minnesota will come back down to earth eventually. As Perry likes to say, Sam will see ghosts soon. Sorry about it. Could very well be. And if he, that's why I said, I'm not willing to crown Sam yet. And let's see what this looks like through a longer period of time. But if he continues to play this way, I do think they're a playoff team. Appreciate your channel. Go Pack Go. Junie, appreciate that a ton. This team will make the Super Bowl. Orton, sign me the hell up. Beyond pumped for this week, Andy. How excited are you for Sunday? Man, I'm excited every day to talk Packers, but game days are the best. And yeah, I think this is a really fun game. Even if it's Malik Willis, I think this is a really fun game. This is a winnable game. Maybe I'll save this for the pregame shows this week, but I do have one real legitimate concern that I will talk about as we get closer to game time. So not that you want to hear that, but we'll keep that for pregame shows. Tucker Kraft to the Pro Bowl this year? No, I doubt it. I very much doubt it. These things usually take a couple of years of you playing at a high level. Now Hawkinson's out. Kittle will just be like a no-brainer that he makes it. Cowboys don't have anyone. Dallas Goedert will probably just be on name recognition. Giants, Commanders, Hawkinson's out. Laporta, once he gets going, will probably be in that conversation. So right there, it'll probably be some form of Laporta, Kittle, and Kyle Pitts will be in that conversation. He's playing a little bit better. So no, I don't think Kraft has any real, could he be in he should be in the conversation? Maybe. Let's give it a little bit of time, but don't think he can legitimately get there this year unless he just goes completely off, which I don't see happening. Percentage Quays gets his 5th-year option picked up. 25%. I'll say 25%. How could you exclude the all-time leading scorer from the Green Bay Packer Hall of Fame? Yeah, you're probably right, K-Ant. That's probably a very good point. Mason Crosby was only an above-average kicker at best anyway. People have rose-colored glasses with him. I understand what you're saying. I will go back to the fact that he is the all-time leading scorer in Green Bay, and that probably does get him in the Packers Hall of Fame. No, Mason is not joining Pack a Day. I can tell you that. How appropriate that can you imagine if here I'm like being like, we've got to stop talking about Mason Crosby. Like, this is getting ridiculous. I'm like, also he's joining Pack a Day. That'd be amazing. How appropriate that the Giants take our release kicker 2 years in a row. Yeah, good point. Mason wasn't released though, but they just moved on from him. So yeah, I get what you're saying though. Andy, non-Packer question, but what is your take on the Bryce Young situation? Man, I reacted to this the first time and said I thought it was absolutely insane. After talking to a couple more people, I'm a little bit more torn on it. I think they were going to lose the locker room, it kind of sounds like, if they continued with Bryce Young, which is a really difficult spot to be in. And I do also understand that, like, listen, there's no question about it. Young has been awful. I mean, awful. So I understand that side of it. I'm always more of like you're not playing for wins and losses this season. There is no good outcome in Carolina. This is going to be a train wreck no matter what. No matter what, this is a train wreck. If I'm in Carolina and I'm in any way, shape, or form in charge, that my only thing I care about this season for the most part is there any way that we can get Bryce Young playing at a decent level? Can he be a starter for us? I would invest everything I have for the remainder of the season of trying to make him into a good quarterback, because that's all you have. You're going to go like maybe 1 win, maybe 2 wins this season at best. And I think there's a real chance that they go winless. I really do. They are a beyond train wreck. I mean, beyond train wreck. This is if things continue, this is, I think, the worst team that I've seen in my lifetime. That's how bad I think they are. But to me, in those situations, you get as many young guys on the field as you can, and you see who can develop, and just make this a developmental season. That's my wholehearted thought on it. But it's not going great. You got to do something. Now they lose, they lost Derek Brown for the season after week 1, like one of the few players that's actually a really good developmental player for them, and just good player right now. It's a nightmare there. So I think you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's really tough if they already think that like he's gone, like he's not going to be a guy for them. Like what a nightmare of a franchise right now. And it starts from the top. The owner's a nightmare, and then that just trickles down everywhere else. So, yeah, it's going to be a long season in Carolina. Watson equals Ike, Bruce, Dobbs, Torrey Holt, Reed, Ricky Prohl, Jacobs Fall, Crab Musgrave. Love the next greatest show on touch. Let's pump the brakes just a little bit, R. Smith, just a little bit. All right. Do you think they'll ever use Malik Willis like the 2021 or 2021 Niners used Trey Lance? Nope. When you have a really great quarterback, you don't take them off the field. And Jordan's a really, really great quarterback, and they're not going to take him off the field. All right. I agree wholeheartedly on the mix and match. One thing I've loved with Halfley so far is at times he's been multiple. We've heard that message before, but it felt like it was not executed. Yeah, I think he's going to get more creative as time goes on as well. I'm going to try to get through as many more of these. Oh, we've got way too many. I'll try to get through as many more of these super quick here. Where did I go? All right. Based on what we've seen so far, when Jordan gets healthy, how many balls go to each mouth? Couldn't help myself on the phrasing. I think it's going to be dependent upon game plan. I do think there's a clean pecking order so far at wide receiver, though, when it comes to snap counts. Dobbs kind of seems like, I'm not saying the number one target. I'm just saying in regards to snap counts, seem like Dobbs is 1. Watson is, sorry. It seems like it's Dobbs and then like Watson and Reed, then Wicks is 4 and Melton is 5. So that's kind of what it seems like so far. And I kind of see it just kind of remaining that way. Any intel on how many reps Willis will get in practice today, or how many did? I do not, baby QB. I wish I knew more on that, but I don't. I'm going to go just to members chats from here on out. If you get super chats in, I will still get to them, but otherwise I'm going to finish up with any members chats that are in here, and then we're going to get out of here, guys. Leaning into the dominance of the run game decreases pressure on Love as he gets his legs back under him, especially under the direction of someone like LaFleur with his sleight of hand ability. Perfectly said, R. Smith. I got nothing to add to you. Who of the Pack-A-Day tribe do you most enjoy having a beer with? It's unfortunate that the vast majority of everyone in Pack-A-Day is not in Green Bay. So I really don't get the opportunity to have a beer with any of them ever. I've had a beer with Matt Freilich. He's in town a little bit more. So usually when we have the tweet ups or things like that, Matt is able to go, and he's awesome to have a beer with. But outside of that, it's unfortunate that it usually doesn't happen that way. So I would never probably pick a favorite anyway, but I honestly just wish I could get a beer with more people from Pack-A-Day far more often. Wish the members Q&A was a little later, running a coffee shop cafe, so it makes it hard to join the chat. Ben, I try to switch it up. Sometimes I do a later one. Sometimes I do more of a noon one. Tomorrow it just worked out a little bit better. Usually depends on the week. It gets tough too where Wednesday nights is Pack-A-Day Live. Friday is happy hour at 4 p.m. Thursday is Thursday Night Football. So, and then Monday, I usually Monday Night Football. So if it's not Tuesday night in season, it ends up usually being a little bit more towards during the day. But I do try to mix that up as much as I possibly can. Members get to help keep Andy in lucky caps. You are very, very right. All great quarterbacks, but Jordan is my guy. Josh Allen takes a high second, but I'm also a Buffalo fan. Totally fair. All right, I would say better than Stafford, but not the other two quite yet. Stroud is very close, though. Yeah, like I said, you can rank them any way you want, and I have no issues with that. I think Jordan can be better than all of them, though. No issues with that. Herbert is going to have a lot of success with Harbaugh. I think that is true as well. Orton, why is LaFleur so complimentary of Nixon in post-game interviews? I think what you have to realize is that Nixon is a very unique player that can do a lot of things in that slot position, which is why I do not see him going anywhere this year. I think he's going to play a ton in the slot. It's not just coverage. You have to be able to blitz. You have to be able to hold up against the run. That is a tough spot in the NFL. And I have negative grades on Nixon in both of the games. So these are my grades. I am giving him negatives in both of his games so far. And I still like the way that Nixon is playing and don't have any issues with him being the slot corner because I know how tough of a spot that is. And I don't think that this is something egregious where it's you got to find something new here. I think he's going to hang in there. I think he is a solid slot corner. If you're looking for a top tier slot corner, you're just not going to find it. And I don't think Nixon is that, but I don't think it's egregious enough where you need to bench him. Do I think he can be one of the best 11 on defense? I do. Do I think it's more towards the 9th, 10th, 11th guy? Yeah, probably. But do I think you can still win with him in there? Absolutely. And that's where I'm kind of at with it right now. I forget all the San Francisco stuff. I love listening to that Harbaugh speak. A lot of truth and very entertaining. What did he say today? I'm like Moses. I'm going to die leaning on my staff, meaning his staff that he trusts. You get a good Harbaughism every once in a while, and they are amazing. I don't know what the Aaron Jones was in regards to, but I'm sorry about that. Still hurts. Genuinely felt nauseous seeing him in purple, but Jacobs is, gotcha. I see where that went now. Do we have concerns with Jordan having mobility issues for the balance of the season? Thinking back to plenty of plays where the pocket collapsed last season and he had to roll out or step up. He looked pretty mobile in practice today. I don't think they're going to want him doing a ton mobily, but this should be something that he gets, better at with time. And, yes, to begin with, he probably wants to stay a little bit more stationary and in pocket, but my guess is in a few weeks, he's moving pretty clean. Josh Allen, I'm assuming that was into the some of your favorite players, not on the Packers. Shout out Bake Show. Loved him in college. Very fun player. Actually love to see 33 doing well. I hate that we moved on, but there's no reason not to root for him. There's 2 reasons not to root for him. Game 1 against the Packers and game 2 against the Packers. But outside of that, I am with you, Colin. Super late. Going to rewatch in the morning. Just had to stop in and drop a like and say thanks for all the great content, Andy. All the other team members and guests are great too. King Kermit, I really appreciate that a ton. Colin says the Vikings look legit. How cooked are the Panthers? I praise God every day. I'm a Packer fan and not a fan of a poverty franchise. They are beyond cooked, my friend. All right. Colin, that may have been one of the craziest things I've heard, to be honest. Give your draft pick a chance. Yeah, I get it. I've been saying that about the Bears offensive line all offseason. Yes, they should have upgraded more. Made it for a live stream. Thank you, Andy, for your awesome coverage. Go Pack Go. Caparoni 132. I really appreciate that. What is HR Andy's favorite ATS? Actually, the last company that I worked with had a homegrown ATS, which is usually a complete bleep show, and you never want a homegrown ATS. That is a nightmare. Their homegrown ATS was freaking awesome. So I forget the name of it now, of what it was, but man, did they do an unreal job of building that thing. And they actually, it's available for sale for other companies that want it. But it was phenomenal. I used Bullhorn, which was brutal. There was another one I used too that was brutal, but the one they made in-house was freaking awesome. Danielle Henry, I absolutely hope so. Do you think X lights a fire under Jaire, meaning he has more accountability to a superior player in that room? I have confidence in Jaire, and that has not always been the case. I was ready to be done kind of with Jaire last year, if I'm being honest. I was ready to be like, I think they should. I thought they should have traded him last year. They couldn't by the time I thought they should have traded him. It was past the trade deadline, but I'm like, that's somebody they needed like legitimately consider trading in the offseason. I love the way that he came back from the suspension. I know he had the bad play against AJ Brown week 1 and a couple other missed tackles here and there. I'm in on Jaire. I think he's going to really settle into this season. I think he's going to have a really good year. So I've not always said that. I've not always been in on Jaire. I'm in on Jaire right now, and I think he's going to have a good season, regardless of anything that Taver McKinney will bring to the table. Excuse me. Feel so bad for Young. Not a good situation at all for him or his development. I do think if sometimes you can take that player and step him back, sometimes there can be some good to that. So if it's with good intentions of like, hey, we need to rebuild him back up and gain some confidence and work on his fundamentals, there can be some positive there. But just being in Carolina in general is not a great situation. Panthers will be as awful as long as they have the owner that everyone hates. Yeah, Tepper is not good. The only good owner is the owners in Green Bay. Go Pack, go. Yeah, I asked Spoff on his chat today about using Willis in that way, and that New Orleans used Taysom Hill. Same answer. Yeah, you're not taking your quarterback off the field. Also, he doesn't have the size of Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill's a unique dude that can play tight end, running back, special teams. That's a special dude. So it's a little bit different. And no, I do not see Malik Willis in that way. Also on Mountain Time in Central Colorado, so that doesn't help. Sorry about that, Ben. Yeah, like I said, we'll definitely change it up from time to time. Nixon can't cover, but he's a willing tackler. I think he's better in coverage than he gets credit for, but no, he's never going to be a top tier cover corner in the NFL. It's just not who he is. High powered must-win game for the Titans. What can Green Bay do to get the W? I believe Willis should start slinging it and trusting the wide receivers to make big plays. High powered. I'm sorry. I do not agree with that. I do not want to see Malik Willis start quote unquote slinging it. You need to make sure that, you are doing everything that you can to have a similar sort of game plan that you can run the football, be efficient, grind out a game, and steal a win if Willis is the QB. That's the game plan to me. And if Love is the QB, then you feel a lot better about it and let him distribute. Still want to develop the running game. It's not going to be easy, but Matt LaFleur will have a good game plan in this one. They'll find ways, I think, to be successful and move the ball. It's going to come down to point production. And that you might say, of course, it always comes down to points. But what I mean is when you're in the red zone, can you get touchdowns? When you have 45-yard field goals, can you make them? Like those things are going to be massively important in this one. So got to get points when you're on the field and have access to them. And if they leave them on the field, I honestly thought the 10 points would be catastrophic against the Colts. So maybe there's a way they can get away with it. But if they leave another 10 points on the field, I don't think they get out of Tennessee with a win. Ken, 12 months. Andy, you skipped my super chat. Well, let's, Ken, make sure that we remedy that. Is Jacobs as good as he looked? Never tackled by the first guy on Sunday. Very impressive. It's a very good free agent signing by Green Bay. Very excited about it. I think what you're seeing with Jacobs in a phone booth, that he can do some special stuff, make some people miss, get yards after contact, handle a 30 carry workload. We are seeing right now that the running game is massively important to success in the NFL. Massively important to success. Yet running backs are still underpaid. Philly got a steal in Saquon Barkley. I think Green Bay got a steal in Josh Jacobs. I think Minnesota, quite frankly, got a steal in Aaron Jones. If I had to say in hindsight, I still would have maybe liked to seen a way that they kept Jones and Jacobs because of how important we are seeing a running game like this. But Jacobs is a big time free agent signing. He needs to hold on to the ball. 2 fumbles in 2 weeks, 1 lost, 1 not lost. But outside of that, you can tell why he is in Green Bay, why Goody trusted him, why he gave him that contract. And he can be special in a phone booth and make people miss and get those extra yards. And it's going to be very, very important for Green Bay's season that he continues to do that. All right. And then Gons USA, new member. Thank you so much for signing up, my friend. Appreciate it. All right. Oh, we had one more member chat here. Are you worried about Calvin Ridley's horizontal speed? I watched some of the All-22 back from the Jets game, and it looks like Calvin got some good work working across the field. He's a really, really good wide receiver. I think we see Jaire travel with him, and I think that's a tough matchup for anyone, but I do think we see a lot of Jaire versus Ridley. I think we see a lot of Stokes and Valentine versus Hopkins, and I think we'll see Nixon versus Boyd in the slot would be my guess. So I think Jaire will be up to it. I think it should be a really fun matchup, but Ridley will get his. My guess is he ends up with like 4 catches for like 75 yards in this one. But if you can limit him, try not to get over 100, try not to allow any touchdowns, I think you'll feel okay. But yeah, hopefully he doesn't go off too much, but he is a very, very talented wide receiver. All right, friends, we went over, but you had a lot of great chats. Ooh, Brewers tied it like that. Thanks, Gnome Fighter. Appreciate the update there. But Yeah, you guys have a great rest of your night. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all the support, the love, the super chats, all of it. Go check out those Pack-A-Day memberships. Like, subscribe, comments, give those 5-star reviews. Always appreciate any interaction with the channel. I'll be back here for happy hour on Friday, members Q&A tomorrow. So get signed up. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.